here we go. Hello, everybody. I'm Pam Chambers, and we are thrilled to have Dr. Laura Markham with us today. She is the author of several books, correct? I think there's 2 parenting books, and she's also been in the media.
3.
Oh, 3 books. Okay, 3 books. And she's been in the media, in several magazines, all of that. So we are really, really pleased. And the founder of AHAPARENTIng.com. Is that correct, Dr. Markham or Dr. Laura?
That's right.
All righty. So tell me, have you always wanted to help parents out? What was your inspiration from the start as far as your interest in this field? Can you hear me?
Well, okay. Yes, I can hear you fine. I think we have a little delay, but that's okay. So I have always been very excited about children and child development. And that was true when I was young myself, when I was 12, 13, 14, and, throughout my life. And I got a PhD in clinical psychology because of that. And then I had a child. I realized that every parent must start off with the same feelings I had of this sacred gift, being able to parent this baby. And then something happens, which is that really, really, really hard. And parents don't get a lot of support. Here I had a PhD in psychology. I had been reading psychology my whole life. I, had a gift for working with children, and yet it was still really hard to be a parent. And I realized parents who don't have the extra resources I have, what are they doing? How are they coping? And parents weren't coping, that it's just so hard and they need more support. So that's why I got into it.
And I think that's terrific because we don't get any help in the school system. There aren't any parent classes that they offer. So we are just floundering and we don't have the connected community with our parents living next door whatsoever. So it's like, how do we navigate this parenthood? It's not easy. It was the hardest job for me. And I've worked and done parenting, and parenting is by far the hardest, but the most rewarding.
Oh, yes, much harder. And of course, we all had childhoods that were, some of which we might want to duplicate, exactly don't want to duplicate. And so we're also learning, we've had research over the last 5 decades that has shown us actually huge breakthroughs in how to raise children in healthy ways. But we, just like we finally understand about germs, right? That's a big thing. Well, we also know a lot about emotional intelligence. We actually have some answers, but we don't learn those things. Who's teaching us those things? No one. So parents need support even to understand what the research is showing us about how to raise kids who will be their best.
Exactly. And, I did a survey with my audience on Facebook, and some of the questions they had, I thought I would go ahead and share with you to see how you might answer to help them out. And at the top of the list, of course, is sibling rivalry. And I know you wrote a whole book on it. It's called Peaceful Parent, Happy Siblings. Stop the Fighting, Raise Friends for Life. And that was the title of your book. And what sort of, a couple pointers you can give as far as reducing sibling rivalry. And I think one of the most asked questions is what happens when one kid, hits the other child with a toy or hits their brother or sister with a toy. How do you handle that? What would be your answer?
Well, first of all, what we would normally do in that situation. One kid hits the other one. And if we're outraged. We can't believe it. We're furious. We go clobber the kid who did the hitting, right? And even if we're able to control ourselves a little bit, if we can control ourselves and we don't clobber him, we're grabbing his arm and saying, how could you do that? You better. And we're screaming at him, right? So what might be a way to handle that differently? where the children would learn a better thing from it? Well,
yeah,
start by realizing that that's not the place we have a child. Instead, what we need to do is help the child who just got hurt, right? Because when we're enraged like that, we will never intervene in a positive way that will have any positive result. Instead, we get between the kids always when there's physical violence or even sometimes verbal violence like teasing. We get between the kids and we're facing the child who's hurt. And that we're ministering to that child. We're saying, oh my goodness, are you okay? And that, as we help that child, we shift ourselves out of avenging mama into nurturing mama, right? So now we're nurturing that child who needs us at that moment. Now, I know we think we need to deal with the perpetrator. He did this after all. We need to set her straight. But actually, you don't need to do that. She's not going anywhere. You know where she lives. You know, you can later intervene in a much more positive way once you calm down. Right now, you minister to the child who's hurt. You take care of them. You take as long as you need to do that. And then you get them settled playing and you go over who hit them with the toy. Right. And you and remember, you're regulating yourself. This is such an important, basic, maybe your most important parenting tool, self-regulation. You're in charge of yourself. Yeah. You don't need to create more drama. There's already plenty of drama going on at this moment. Your job is to settle the storm, right? Self-regulation. That's the, and, you know, and if you don't, what will happen? If you go in there with your guns blazing, your kid feels like it's an emergency. Your kid goes into fight, flight, or freeze, right? Because it's an emergency. They're not learning. They're not taking anything in. They're open to seeing it from their siblings' perspective. They're only trying to defend themselves, and they're defensive, and they're not listening. They're angry because they're defending themselves. If instead you self-regulate, you go connect with them, you get down on the floor and you connect with them and you say, ouch, your brother was really crying. Or that was, yes, you're empathizing with them. You're pointing out that the whole situation was a big thing, right? That had a big effect on them too. And you know, you might say your brother was really crying. One thing you're acknowledging is that while your child took an action that was and not acceptable, your child's heart hurt too. There's a reason for your child not to lash out and hit people. One is that it hurts another is that it hurts their own heart. It hurts them, right? It hurts the child who does the hitting. It hurts their heart. Those are the two reasons for that. Not because otherwise that's not a good enough reason for them, actually. Then they'll just do it behind your back, right? We need them to want to notice these effects, the effect on the other person and the effect on their own heart. So we join with them and we say, you must have been so upset. Well, they were so upset or they wouldn't have hit, right? You must have been so upset. Your brother with the truck. You must have been so upset. Now, if you've never done this before, your child will look at you like you're crazy. They will be but your child will immediately say, yes, I hit him. He ruined my tunnel that I was building. He did this, you know, he looked at my truck. Whatever the sibling did that was so terrible, you will hear all about it now. And you empathize. You say, oh, no wonder you were upset. Tell me more. What happened then? And your child tells you all of this stuff. And you listen and you listen and you empathize. And then you say, so I see. So XYZ happened and your brother looked at your truck and you thought he was going to grab it and you didn't know what else to do. So you hit him with the truck. Is that what happened? And your kid goes, yes. Like, hallelujah, mom understands. Right? And you say, see, you've been so worried. You say, and then what happened? And your kid looks at you and you say, well, your brother was crying, right? It really hurt him. and your kid goes, oh, I guess there was a bad result to what I did, right? So they're starting to, this is how we develop good judgment, from bad experience combined with reflection. We're helping the child reflect on what happened, right? Now, let's say your kid doesn't care. Let's say your kid says, he deserved it. He should never have been born, right? That's a kid with a chip on his shoulder. It's not a momentary thing. It's big. And in that case, you actually have a work to do. You have some work to do to melt that sibling rivalry away. And there are some tools you can use that will help you to, and it's not going to happen over a few months, but if you really work at it, you can do it, because unfortunately, a lot of sibling rivalry, actually, we create it by comparing our children. We create it by favoring one over the other. We create it by, when they have a fight with each other, we side with one of them over the other one. And even if that one was right, when you do that, when you side with one kid over the other, get sided with feels like, well, my sister more than me, right? So there are tools you can use to melt sibling rivalry.
Do you have those tools, Dr. Laura? Do you have those tools on your website? Where do they find these kinds of tools if it's a really deeper issue than just an anger outburst?
I can tell you some of those tools right now in our conversation, but there's a whole sibling section on my website, which is AHA Parenting. Like AHAPARENTING.com is the website. And of course, as you said, I wrote a whole book on it. There's also the book. But let me tell you some of the tools right now. Some of the tools are this. Number, when your children get in an altercation, your job is to move in to stop any violence or any, including verbal violence or teasing, and to help them sort it out, because they're immature human beings. They're not going to be good at working out conflict, right? And when you think about it, how good are we adults at working out conflict, right?
Yes,
have you ever? If you've ever had a fight with your partner, hey, right, I get it. Even we as adults, we don't have very good role models. We didn't really learn a lot. So your children are having a fight. You move in and you say, whoa, 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 I hear some loud voices. You two are having a hard time. Now you say that one is attacking the other. Even if one of them is 8 months old, and and the loud voice is the 3-year-old screaming at the 8-month-old, right? You say, you two are having a hard time. There's some loud voices, right? You're not moving in and saying to the 3-year-old, you bad boy, that's not the way a big brother should act, because then he just feels ashamed and like he's lacking, and it makes him even more angry at his sibling, right? So instead, you move in and you acknowledge that they're all having a hard time, both of them. We can figure this out. Let's all take a deep breath. I'm here to help. We can figure this out. And then what'll happen is they'll want to tell you what their sibling did wrong. They'll both want to tell you what the sibling and this is where parents this is the pitfall. Parents think they have to listen to each of them and decide who's right. No. You can't possibly do that unless you're Solomon. And B, even if you're Solomon and even if you watched the entire interaction and you know who's right and somebody's obviously right, you don't know what happened an hour ago or yesterday, right? And even if you did, if you say, well, clearly, Sarah, you're wrong. Clearly, your sister is right, and you're just wrong. Give that to your sister. What happens then? What does Sarah think? Oh, I'd like to be. Sarah thinks, as always, mom is taking my sister's side. She loves my sister more. Wait till I get my sister without mom around, right? So you've just right. So you do not take sides in that way, right? You're not instead. Yes, even if you doesn't matter. What you do is you say, we can figure this out. Let's take a deep breath. If you can get them to sit down, that's always good. It calms things a little. If the fight is over a toy, move the toy, you take the toy goes like behind you on the shelf or something while you're having the conversation, so it isn't in one child's or the other's hands. You say, okay, so you want the toy and you want the toy. We can figure this out. Or it's something, older kids might be like, you think it's his turn. You think it's your turn to do this, but he thinks it's his turn. Or maybe, you want to play the game this way and he wants to play the game that way. Whatever it is, you try to define what's going on. Right. But, so you want this and you want that. This is a tough situation. This is a hard, how are we going to work this out? Right. And then if one of them has offended the other, if one of them is like saying, you're stupid. How could you, whatever, to the other one, you say, whoa, our number one family, kindness. You can tell your brother what you need from him without attacking him, right? So this is the most basic thing we want all children and all adults to learn. You can,
that's the truth.
Human relationship. Yeah, every human relationship has conflict, right? We also, we can tell each other we're attacking the other person. And if we can do that, there's a lot more connection, a lot more support, and a lot less drama, right? So that's what we do. So you have them repeat it.
Yes, terrific information. Now, also, in one of the questions that my audience members had was, how do we keep our cool when, their son is purposefully doing and acting out, saying doing exactly the opposite of what we want them to do? And basically, I think it would fall under the category of self-regulation that you said, but how do we keep our cool when this is happening?
So first of all, really, the things that we're ashamed of later, that we think, oh my God, what got into me? How I was screaming at my kids like a crazy woman, right? Later, right? When we think that those moments, looking back on them, that nothing good ever comes of that, right? And yet, in the moment when they happen, we've all been there, right? So think about that moment when it happens. You think you're right. The other people in the situation are wrong. And of course you have every right to scream at them. You have to set them straight. But that's a signal. That's a signal that you're in fight, flight, or freeze yourself. And you're fighting. You're in fight mode. You're acting like they're the robber or the tiger or the enemy, right? If you're seeing your child as the enemy, you're already in a state of illusion, basically. Right? Your child is never the enemy. Your child is your beloved child who is immature because they're a child. They're exhibiting childish behavior. They're prefrontal cortex, so they don't have this very good executive function or ability to self-regulate. Guess why? Because they're a child. But there is an adult in the situation. You're the adult. We are always the adult in the situation with our children. And it's our job to act like an adult. So that's the place. When you are triggered, you will feel like it's an emergency and you must set the other people in the room straight. Except that's always a signal that you're wrong. It's a signal that you're already triggered. So your job at that moment is to stop and go, I'm triggered. Oh, okay. Stop. Drop your agenda. Because maybe your agenda is to smack your kid. Maybe your agenda is to get your kid to get his shoes on. It doesn't matter. Whatever your agenda is at that moment, stop your agenda just for the moment and take a deep breath. You probably need 3 deep breaths.
Yes, I should see that.
So take a few deep breaths. And then, if you're still not calm enough to intervene in a calm voice, what you say to your child is, I'm angry about this, that I can't speak calmly. We're going to talk about this as soon as I calm down. In the meantime, I expect you to be on your best behavior.
Okay.
And you do some breathing. You do not use the time to review in your mind why your kid is a brat and has what she's got coming to her. You don't do that. because that'll just make you more angry. Your goal is to calm yourself down, which means you go wash your hands, splash some water on your face, do some more breathing.
Right.
You know, it's actually very effective to give yourself an actual direct antidote, which says, this is my beloved child. My daughter is a kid. She's wonderful in most ways. Yes, it drives me crazy, this particular thing she does. And she does it all the time and she knows better, it's true. But otherwise, she's such a great kid. I'm overreacting. Okay, I'm going to just remember I'm overreacting. I'm going to calm down and then I'm going to go talk with her about it, right? When you go back in the room, which you do believe you do, you say, and by the way, parents will say, but then I look stupid. I've lost face. No, you look managing their temper. Somebody who is self-regulating. Somebody, right? You being responsible and taking responsibility for their emotions. Big emotions. They're going to happen. We're human. That's okay. What we want our children to learn is what we just role modeled, which is they do not have to clobber their brother just because they think they're right. They can walk away and then come back and say to their brother, excuse me, that's mine. And you took it out of my room without asking. And you need to talk to me about replacing that, right? That's a really different thing than clobbering him, right? And we want to role model for our kids how to do that. So when parents are saying, how can I calm down? Really, there's two ways. One is in the moment, you stop, drop away, you calm down. Another way, a second way, and that is you retrain your brain, less drama in general and more ability to self-regulate. You actually rewire your brain. And it's been proven that you can do that with meditation. It's also been proven that every time you get enraged, but you don't act on your rage, you instead remind yourself that it's not an emergency and you calm yourself down. Every time you do that, you're rewiring your brain. Right?
Exactly.
So you can,
even lowering your voice diminishes the anger. Just one little thing of lowering your voice.
Exactly right. That one little trick, take a breath, lower your voice. And what else it does, not only does it make you less angry, your child then isn't threatened. Your child is not in a state of emergency because you've lowered safer. So they're more open to your influence at that moment. They're more willing, they're less defensive. They're more willing to apologize to someone if that needs to happen.
Exactly. And role modeling is the best way we communicate with our children. It's better than verbally telling them. It's better than body behavior. But role modeling is the best and most effective way to communicate to our children. So if they see us calm down and take a minute, they'll do the same, like you said, role modeling.
Exactly.
So now how about, just real quick, because I know we're almost out of time here, but what about, real quick, how do you teach your kids to stand up to bullies? That was another question that was veered by the audience. How do we, what do we tell our children when they get bullied? Do you have any suggestions?
So the first thing I would say is kids need to be able to talk to us about it, about whether they've been exposed to bullying without us overreacting.
Okay.
The biggest mistake we make as parents is we overreact, and then children don't feel comfortable talking to us. They're embarrassed about it. And they think that if they tell us about it, we're either going to do something that will embarrass them, like call the bully's parents, for instance, or they think we're going to think less of our own child. They think they're embarrassed, and dad will think I'm not strong and able to stand up for myself, right? And so kids get very worried about what we do to them. So when you talk with your kid about this, the way to talk about it is how I would start with mild things, like when they disagree with someone, how can they say that, right? Or when someone says something that hurts their feelings, how do they respond? What's a way to do it? And you can act these things out. One great way to do it that keeps kids from getting defensive is stuffed animals. If you have two 2 stuffed animals. You grab the stuffed animals and you say, you know, and dad, will you will think I'm not strong and able to stand up for myself, right? And so kids get very worried about what we do to them. So when you talk with your kid about this, the way to talk about it is how I would start with mild things, like when they disagree with someone, how can they say that, right? Or when someone says something that hurts their feelings, how do they respond? What's a way to do it? And you can act these things out. One great way to do it that keeps kids from getting defensive is stuffed animals. If you have 2 stuffed animals, you grab the stuffed animals and you say, you know, you're ugly, one says to the other, and you look at your kid and you go, oh my goodness, what should she say? And your kid might be like, no, it's terrible. And you say, it is terrible. She must feel bad in her tummy, right? Feel bad. Wonder what she could say. If she felt strong, she would know what to say. If you felt strong, what could you say? You could say, I'm not ugly. You're not seeing me right. Walk away. How would that work? And you ask that to your child, and your child goes, I don't know. Maybe that would work. Let's try another one. And so you play with different things to give your child language that your child feels like in that situation. And then you ask your child other kinds of things. And so one thing is you say, is this kid is acting like a bully. Do you think this kid is happy? No, this kid is pretty sad inside. This kid is trying to make feel better by other people, right? Like by putting them down, he thinks he can feel better. But poor thing, he doesn't feel good. He's so sad inside, right? But should we let him be mean? Should we let him be mean to us? No, but we can just walk away, right? We don't have to, because what happens if we fight back? Then and I think what we want to teach kids is people who are bullying, they want a response. They like the response. And so if this kid's mean and this kid starts to cry and crumples, this kid likes it, right? So we say, hey, so should this kid know? Even if you cry and crumple in the bathroom or once you get home, fine. But that's fine to do. Crying is always okay. But should you cry and crumple in front of the bully? And the bully likes it. And then the next day it'll happen again, and the next day, right? Understand a little bit about the fact that when someone bullies, they need to get in touch with their own strength rather than crying and crumpling, right? But if you act things out with them, how to stand up for themselves.
Yes, and role playing is terrific. And it's the best way to empower the child. And also you're developing empathy for the bully himself or herself. And that's terrific because the role modeling through the puppets, it also helps teach the children critical thinking skills. What should I say? How should I act out now when this happens next time? So that's terrific. Well, thank you. Well, Dr. Laura, go ahead, give them your website one more time. It is what? AHA?
Parenting.com.
Parenting. And all of your books are there, correct?
Indeed. Amazon or anywhere else books are sold. And your folks should, I have a newsletter it's designed to give parents support. So you get this newsletter and it just gives you several articles from the website, and usually I try to work it out so there are different of kids being addressed in the articles. So I have articles for parents of all age kids, right, from babies through teens. Do a mixture. That way you get something across your inbox every week. Oh, right. And it get refocused, get your attention, new tips.
Exactly. I love it. And they can find that on your website.
Every page of the website and the news. All right.
Nice to meet you. Thank you very much for being here. Nice to meet you. All righty. Bye-bye now. Bye.
Bye-bye.